Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello and welcome to The People's View. The People's View is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee. I'm one of the co-hosts, Carl Seidel, representative from Ward 1, and Kevin Avard, who's also a representative from Ward 1.
How are you?
And today we're going to interview Greg Surbey, who's a candidate for representative in Ward 6.
Yes.
Right. Greg, how are you?
Oh, awesome. And thank you for inviting me on the show.
Oh, good. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us why you're running for this office.
Well, I love New Hampshire, and it's the reason I'm here. I love what it represents in terms of just the New England area. You know, what's really funny, growing up in Virginia originally, Republican means something different. And Republican means something different up here. It's almost libertarian, one might say. And I love that because I think it's the best of both worlds. You get to be free in your life, both economically through you know, whatever job, whatever business you want to do, and socially through whatever health care plan you want, or you know, you have choices. And I think that's really important, and that's what freedom is. I love New Hampshire because of.
Good. Have you been active in politics at all?
Yeah, it's my second time running here in 2012. I ran in 2010, and I did pretty well in Hillsborough County District 33, Ward 6. And I got, was it about 917 votes, I think, and it was like 70 shy of what was needed to win. So I'm going to go for it again here.
Good. Well, let's hope you are better supported this time.
I noticed that you have a pin there. You know, it seems that when you go to the Capitol, everybody has a pin, and for some reason they identify you with a particular group. And I happen to recognize that pin. Can you talk a little bit about that pin?
It's the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, NHLA, and I guess at the State House, the main way that you see their presence is the gold standard, which is this sheet that tells you about the bills that are up for vote that day, and what their view is on that.
If they're liberty-oriented or if they're conservative. We, Carl, I believe you're part of the HRA as well,
yes.
and that has more of a conservative type of viewpoints, and the Libertarians another.
What's really funny is Americans for Prosperity and the GOP one and New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, they Venn diagram cross over so much. It's maybe even the Reagan 70% my friend thing. Right. More than that, it seems like they share on their the rankings.
A lot of
reps.
basic principles are shared by a number of groups. So I mean, we're not just the conservative Republicans or the liberal Republicans, the moderate Republicans. But I mean, we have libertarians, and you have a number of different groups up there that all make up part of our Republican Party. We all agree with the basic Republican platform.
Yeah, and here's one of my favorite stories, because I work in Lexington, Massachusetts, and you know, I have a lot of liberal friends, and you know, I tell them a story. Well, you know, we had a Republican supermajority in the House, right? And you know, gay marriage passed last time through the Democratic majority, but we didn't have enough to repeal it. And here we have a Republican supermajority, and maybe that's a little bit like herding cats for the speaker, but it's pretty interesting if you consider that a social freedom, that state in New Hampshire. And I think that's a good reason why, in my neighborhood especially, I feel like there's a lot more a liberal demographic than Republican. So I want to get that, you know, the independent vote, and as well as, you know, I think it's a teaching experience to go door to door, and listening experience as well. It's a both way. And to know that, don't be afraid that, you know, your social issues are still respected.
It's interesting, and the reason I bring up the pin, and you know, you brought up the herding of the cats, and I don't know, is it my imagination, or were the Democrats usually just sitting watching Republicans debate the issues? It seemed like diversity and open-mindedness and challenging of ideas was pretty much on the Republican side.
Oh, yeah.
There you have the Liberty people, you have the HRA, you have some of the old guard, and all these were pushing around ideas. And you know, I just saw one monogamous, you know, Democratic Party versus a huge plethora of ideas on the Republican side. And I thought the open-mindedness was extremely refreshing, and I applaud that group immensely, because they brought a lot of ideas to the table, as well as the HRA.
You know, it's funny, I went up to Speaker Bill O'Brien's, bringing in the candidates and teaching about what people care about. Apparently nobody cares about the social issues. It's all about jobs, economy, jobs, economy. That was what he hit home. And I'm happy that, you know, Republicans have cut, you know, spending 11%, which is amazing.
First time in history.
Which is amazing.
Right.
What any state and the other state in the union, or when's the last time anything got close to that? Last time was a 1% budget cut in like in the World War II era or something?
I think that was actually under Governor
Benson?
Yes, Governor Benson.
Yeah, I think he did cut back on some. They had a little problem getting the budget through that year.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but yeah, I think you can look at that in some of these ranking sheets that you talked about too. That the Democrats are grouped, of course, way at the bottom, but we're very tightly grouped. Right. So they come in, they don't represent a variety of ideas. They have one idea, and that's all they march to.
It's party line all the way.
Yeah.
What are some of the obstacles that you're running into right now, or challenges that you might have in your campaign? That
you know, it's interesting, and this is just, you know, you're taught an American dream, you grow up in American democracy is what people say, although it's a republic. But we're very represented in New Hampshire as far as republic. You know, 400 state reps. We're the 4th largest English-speaking legislative body in the world. So per capita, you get a lot of representation. It makes it easier to run because you have less constituents that you have to go out to talk to. They have better representation. And the main thing that I've seen is that people just don't care about this local level of government, or they don't know about it, they don't think about it. It just doesn't enter their thoughts, and it's kind of tough to go out there. You knock on doors, they go, who is he? What is he selling? And you know, and then you know, it's trying to bring that neighborhood back together. A lot of people are, you know, you'll see your neighbors come home from work all the time and never get to shake their hand or say hi to them.
You find people are really busy.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. But what's really fun is when you are kind of forced, because you're running, to go out there and say hello, and you kind of try to regroup people into a community, tell them what their neighbors said, what do they say, and kind of try to get even put on events to have people come over to, like, say my house, which I should do, or bar, local bar, whatever it is. And you know, local, most people think national politics. A lot of people aren't thinking local.
So you work for MIT, so you must have some type of education background. What's your background on education?
I went to George Mason University for computer science, and then I worked for AT&T for a while, and then I went to MIT Lincoln Laboratory, and I work on public key infrastructure, cryptography. And it's a really cool field. Work with a lot of really great people, a lot of PhDs, a lot of egos there. It's fun.
But right on the cutting edge of technology, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And also what's funny is the vendor connections with that technology. You get to see the latest and greatest before, like even before beta. You get to see where the industry's going before it's actually gotten there.
Do you see any needs for Nashua or New Hampshire in technology, drawing business up this way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I can't remember the name of this one company, but I remember there was a tech company in Nashua that moved to all places Lowell, Mass, about 3 years ago, and the reason were tax reasons. The business taxes were less. Now, of course, that's probably payroll side. But then their employees, a lot of them lived in Nashua. There's no reason for them to move to Lowell. And then their employees have to pay the income tax, the mass income tax on the other side.
So there's some lost revenue right there.
But that's what's up with that? A business moving to Massachusetts because of lower business taxes. Now that tells you something's wrong with the business enterprise tax, the business profits tax, and that needs fixed. And I'm glad that Bill O'Brien wants to fix that. Of course, we cut the spending. What is it, 11%? But that's not enough. That's just stopping the growth of spending. Now we need to chop it back a little. And that's you know, jobs. What are jobs? Private sector jobs, not public sector. Private sector, and that's IT. That's innovation.
Do you have any other ideas of what would be more, make it more encouraging to have businesses stay or come to New Hampshire? I mean, is there other things that, besides the business tax, that you think might help?
Well, I'm glad that Bill Bryan's going after regulation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm saying the speaker's name that correlates me with him, but you know what? He's done a great job, and it's hard to say that he hasn't. You know, it's kind of a joke if anybody. I'm very specific on my principles, and it's amazing how he's mapped so well to.
Apparently, if you do stand on issues and principles, you will get attacked. And
Yes.
he does seem to stand on his principles. And part of leadership, you know, you got to take the heat. I've seen people protesting out there, and it was
Well,
just,
it's terrible too that the media has been made such a picture of him. You
Right.
know. He has, well, as
It's a
you say, he's
caricature,
the,
yeah.
well, caricature. He's the target. He has the target on his back for the rest of us, I guess.
Well, to speak on your question, regulation is an easy one because the regulation doesn't benefit the business nor the state. Because if you want to consider the state as an entity that wants money, you know, it's not like a tax where maybe the money goes someplace. Regulation is just wasted energy, wasted effort, bureaucracy. And a lot of times it's unnecessary, and going through there and finding where that can get cut is just a win-win situation.
It's a little difficult to do too, to
Yeah.
find out how, because a lot of these agencies feel quite independent in making rules and regulations. But we're working on that. You know, there is a commission. Maybe if you get elected, you can be on that commission.
Did you have a particular committee that you think you'd be interested in being on?
Oh, to be honest, you know, working down in Lexington, Mass, and having a job, I do have an hourly, you know, get paid by the hour, so I can do that and take off days to vote. But for a committee, I don't maybe fish and game or something like that. Nothing too much, at least to begin with, for the first 2-year session that I'm in.
Right.
Just because I want to be responsible and I want to represent people. I want to have a 100% voting record on Wednesdays. That's my goal. But on committee, you know, I have an easy committee for as far as
Right.
attendance.
Yeah, and there, you know, I think my personal term, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. Man.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that you have to learn.
Yeah,
And,
I don't know. There were a few times where I'd look at Carl and say, "Hey, what do I do?" Or what, you know, because Carl's been up the road a little bit, and this is your second term, and now you're going for your third. So sometimes you really need to draw back and say, "Wait, I don't understand. What is this OTP?" And you know, there's just so much information, and why did we kill this bill to bring it up later? How does that work?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of things to learn in the first couple of years. Now, you know, I'm ready to go for the next one. Hopefully, I get elected. But what I wanted to ask you a little bit about education. What are your thoughts about improving the education?
Education, just local, and what's the most local? The most local is, I'll give you an example, stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, and homeschooling. That's as local as it gets. And so that's where I begin, and then from there build out. So charter schools, that's in a good direction. And what I really think is that people should get tax credits so that if they take their child to something outside the public school system.
To give them an option.
Yes.
Yeah, a little competition.
Give them some of their money back if they, and that creates competition. Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, you've got there are various unions out there, and you know, the unions benefit themselves in there versus the taxpayer, versus the parents, and versus the children. In order not to get fired, in order to not have to strive and compete. I think, especially to children, that's grievous to do that to them, to not have an environment where people are competing to educate them. They deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, as you say, there are different ways of teaching. Some children flourish under one type when they don't under
Oh yeah,
another.
many. Yeah, some people are visual, some people are happy hands-on. Some there are various. Some people are verbal, some written.
Cookie
There's
cutter
so many-
just doesn't work anymore.
No. Well, one of the things with our current school system, if you look up John Taylor Gatto, he's written a lot about this, a lot of books. It was the Industrial Revolution, and you teach the children, you know, the bell rings, it's factory workers, you're off to lunch, you're back on the floor, you know, you're doing this, and it's very factory, and the type of education is not oriented to our current technological revolution that we're in now. And a lot of times, what I've seen in the industry is you'll have, even up to the college level, where people will get hired without college degrees because they're self-learners, but they had no documentation for it. And that tells you that our education system is not ready for the IT economy.
Well, look, there are some ideas that are being worked on right now, like manufacturing of education, where children are taught a type of trade in high school, and they're learning hands-on so that when they're out of high school, they can get into the manufacturing industry. That's another alternative, because not everybody's going to go to college. And they find that if the schools are designed to train children to go to college, and they're not going to college, well, I need a trade.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And the manufacturers are starving for ready-to-work people. And they're finding a deficiency, so that's one of the issues that needs.
I think we're working on that now.
Right.
The community colleges are sort of taking a lead, I think, in that they're doing both the academic and the manual or technical type of work. Nashua Community College trains a lot of auto mechanics for the Honda certification. They have some other things.
And you make good money doing that.
Definitely.
That's a good
definitely,
trade.
yeah, and they do it for other things like that too. I know one of the other community colleges is training them for high-tech welding, something that's needed now because of the types of metals that are being used in industry. And the welding is not just the old, you know, the old technique of an acetylene torch and everything. Sometimes you got to do it with lasers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I love when industry comes in and tells the school system what kind of person they would hire and helps out with that.
Right.
That makes perfect sense on both sides. You know, I'm very thankful for actually Dean Kamen, you know, Segway fame, et cetera, and because he created U.S. First Robotics, which is a organization that goes to schools, and their after-school programs are not necessarily part of the school, but you can build a robot and do a competition every year.
Yeah, National South has that, right?
Yes, yes, they do. And
J.R. Hose, State Rep J.R. Hose does the segways.
And that helped me become where I am today. So that's important. That's extremely. That was my favorite class. That was not a class.
Well, it's not only high schools. They have the elementary schools involved in some of that now. I have some nephews that lived up in Hanover that are involved in that. And we're starting them off at a very early age. And it gets them interested in science, too. I don't think there's enough openness about the variety of types of you know, business that you can get into right now. You got to expose the kids in elementary school to some of those options.
So if somebody wants to help you with your campaign, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website, gregsurbey.com, GregSurbey.com. And that, I have a donate button, I have a volunteer button, I have, you know, some bio on there, and I'm adding to it for the 2012 still.
Are you looking for sign locations in your area too?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'd appreciate it if anybody were to call, email, contact info's on the website. I will be at their home, you know, that day or the next.
Good, good. And you've learned things from the last time you ran. What are you going to do different?
Knocking on doors is the main thing. I just need to get out there and knock on doors and
get to meet
walk
the people.
And that's what that's the New Hampshire way, but it really is the way, because I feel like everybody I met, or a lot of them, were happy with the discussion that we had, and just I had some people say that they vote for me just because I showed up at their door. Nobody has come by, nobody said hello to me in like 3 years. And, well, you showed up, so congrats. And so, and I think that's important.
Good. Well, if people want to know more about you, you gave them your email address. They can stop by our Victory office on Amherst Street, which is opposite the old building 19 and a half, and pick up some of your literature there and find out about you if they haven't seen you knocking on their door, right?
That's right.
Well, very good. Well, thank you very much for the time that you here, and I hope that you're lucky in your try for your office.
Thank you, Carl, for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And break a leg.
Okay, this is the end of the People's View. The Nashua City Republican Committee has a website also, NashuaGOP.org. Look up all the events that are happening. We have a stakeout coming out the end of August at the Crown Plaza. and other events and other information about the candidates that are running is on that website. Thank you very much for listening. Welcome back to The People's View. This is Carl Seidel and Kevin Avard, and now we have a candidate for County Treasurer, David Fredette.
Right.
David, welcome aboard, and
Welcome.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. Well, I think I'm fairly well known in the community. I was born and raised in Nashua. Have a lot of family and relatives in the community. And I've been involved with lots of organizations and groups over the years. I went to local schools. I have my MBA from Revere College, which I guess now is university. They changed their name. But, and I've been in the business field basically for 35 years. Involved with budgets, investments. I currently work for the city of Nashua as the city treasurer and been with the city for about 13 years. And I was the county treasurer for 8 years. I was 2 years in the 90s and 6 years from 2000 through 2006. So I'm very familiar with the job and what it's all about.
Good, good. I think that's what we need. Is I chair the executive council over there, and I think that we have a lot of discussion on how the treasurer works. And maybe you could tell the audience how you approach it.
Well, the county treasurer is basically responsible for the funds that come in through taxes and other areas, the investments of the funds, the disbursements of the funds, cash flow, cash control. And as you know, there are times of the year that the county has $50 million, $60 million in cash, and you have to try to invest that money safely and to earn interest. That will also help out with keeping taxes down. Over the years, I know for 6 years I earned about $1.3 million over budgeted for interest income at that time, 2000 to 2006. The investment environment's a lot different than when I left in 2006. With my other job, I can tell you that the interest rates are extremely bad. You don't want to lock up the money too long because they keep saying the rates are going to start going up, but they've been saying that now for about 2 years, and they haven't gone anywhere.
Do you have to base on projections what you think you'll get for an interest rate?
Well, when I was in the job before, I used to go out basically for bids. There's only a few good-sized banks in the community that will be interested, because you have to have your money collateralized. That has to be protected. So some of the smaller banks can't do that kind of program. So I used to go out for bids maybe once a year with the county anyways. And you have to project how long you can tie up the money based on what your cash needs are during the year. So in the county, you get a lot of money in December because the tax bills are due, I think, December 17th from all the communities. And for those who might not know a lot about Hillsborough County, it is the largest county in the state out of the 10 counties. It's made up of 2 cities, Nashua and Manchester, and 29 towns. So all those communities pay a portion to the county to run the government there. So that money comes in December, so that's the time that you really go out and try to invest that money for periods of time to earn as much as you can. And you're also involved with the audit that's done every year. I was anyways. There's a business office in the county, so you work closely with a couple of people there. You're involved with some of the payroll items. There's a mixture of things. I enjoyed it when I was there before.
Are pensions involved? Do you have to pay pensions out of the Treasury?
The county employees are part of the state pension system, so no, you make payments to the state, but that's it.
Right.
But you did a good job in 2002 to 6, as you said. You earned a lot of money. It built up a nice surplus that we had in the county. Well, and we, at some time, we had more surplus than the state did.
And more than a lot of places did. But that was really due to 2 things. One was the good investments and the money coming in from that, plus pretty good budget controls over the years, the commissioners and the delegation. And they built up an excellent surplus or fund balance. And I know they've had to dip into that over the years, but hopefully they'll keep at least a decent balance there, because it helps when you have to borrow money. Hillsborough County, I think, might be the only county, too, in the state that has no debt at all.
That's right.
And hasn't for years. But I think there'll be come a time somewhere that they may need to borrow money. And one of the things that rating agencies look at is how much fund balance you have. And the higher your fund balance, the lower rate you can get when you sell bonds. I'm familiar with selling bonds because I do that in my other job also. And the treasurer of the county is responsible for that function. I used to get out every year I had to have a line of credit approved by the executive committee and the commissioners, just in case we ever needed money urgently and quickly. We never used it, and I don't think they ever have since I've left, but it's something that you should try to do every year, is have that line of credit approved in case you ever have an emergency and you need some funds.
Why do you think in the future we may have to borrow?
Well, your buildings are getting older, and I'm sure it's time they may need to do some rehabilitation to the jail in Manchester. That was the last county debt they really had, was the jail in Manchester.
Right.
Or the nursing home. You know, you have a couple of big buildings there that sooner or later they're going to have to need some major renovation.
Was that 300 beds at the nursing home?
At least 300 beds.
Yeah, and the jail's a pretty good-sized jail.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I know the jail's in very good condition, and but like I said, I know one day you're going to have to do that.
Well, you have somewhat of self-insurance in some of those things, too. If you have a catastrophe, you're going
Yes,
to...
you do. But as the building gets older, you know, you're going to have to replace windows or heating systems, air conditioning. You know, I see it in the city, and it happens everywhere. So unless you built up some type of a trust fund every year and save money for that, but I don't think the county has that. It's very hard to do right now in this economy.
We do have still money in the bank, though. We still
Yes.
have a rainy day fund,
Right.
if you want to call it that.
Well, the county's been very good at, they have a lot of revenue coming in from buildings that they own that they
Yeah.
get lease money from, which I think some of the smaller counties don't have that opportunity. So that's been
We
very
have a
good for
lot of
Hillsborough.
land there, too.
Yes,
that,
I know, a lot.
That people would like to have or use.
Yes, I know.
So one way or another. And in a way, I mean, we grow vegetables for the nursing home, feeding them, and it's taken care of by the corrections department.
Yep, well, that's good. It gives them something to do. The inmates, I'm sure, are the ones who probably go
They'd
out
like
there
to
and
get
work.
out of that building a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, I know it's quite a bit of piece of land out there. A lot of people probably aren't even familiar with it, but I'm not sure how many acres, but it's quite a bit.
It's several hundred acres.
Yeah. So, like I said, I enjoyed my time with the county. I find it very interesting. And I think sometimes some of the things I may learn there I can use in my other job, or what I learn in my current job I can use there. So I think that's also a very
I
good
think that's
thing.
something we're looking for as a person with experience. I mean, we've had people there in the past that have more treated it as a political job than as somebody who's going to take care of the county's money.
No, I'm just interested in the Treasury. And most of the people I worked with, they are still there in the business office.
Yes. Yeah.
So it would
We
be very
have-
easy to get familiar back with everyone, you know.
Right.
Of course, I'll have to win in November, so we'll have to wait and see
Well, what are you doing
happens.
on your campaign? How are you going
Well, I'm
to
not doing too much right now. There's no primary race.
Right.
Plus, I've never really have done a lot for the race. I will, in October, I'll be active. I do have signs made, and I'll get my signs out. Of course, it's a large county to cover.
It is. It's a very large
Like I said,
county,
there's
isn't it?
29 towns, so
Right.
you try to go to the areas that have busy streets like Route 101 and those kind of things, and put your signs up. And
Do you have a website?
I don't have a website. I go to functions as much as I
Right.
can, meet people.
Do you have an email address that people, if people have questions?
I have an email. It's you want me to say it now,
Yeah.
or it's Fredette,
Okay.
Fredette, and the number 1 at Comcast.net.
Okay.
One of the things that Carl and I were talking about before we got on the air was continuity, and how important that is. And for new people to just jump into a role like this, it does break up that continuity, doesn't it?
It does,
mean,
and
if
I
it's-
think there's been discussion over the years that this is a position that maybe shouldn't be elected and just appointed. Oh, maybe it's a position that's not needed really, because you could have the business office kind of do that, but it's more of a protection of the funds, not to have all the controls in one area,
Right.
but to have those controls,
Check and balance
yes,
type of
to
thing.
be spread out more. So, like I said, there's a treasurer in every county in the state, so But it is important, in my opinion anyways, at least to try to have somebody that understands a little bit about
Right.
cash flow, cash control, and investments.
And it seems like you have a pretty good track record at this point.
I believe I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to throw you a bone here.
I've been there for 8 years, and I was there for 8 years, I should say, so I believe I do.
And you know a lot of people too, which I think is important to get the, to spread the word. They can
Right.
talk, vouch for you more or less.
Well, county government's very interesting.
It is.
It's kind of a government a lot of people don't know a lot about. They only use it for certain things. I mean, let's face it.
Still has
You don't want to use the jail for any reason, but that can happen to certain people. And the nursing home is very important. It's a well-run nursing home.
It is. I think
They
it's
have
the best I've ever seen.
excellent care there.
And you have to stay on top of that, especially nowadays. The population is definitely getting bigger, the
with
senior
the
population.
New Medicaid rules and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I
going to
don't-
be something. We're having a meeting on that next week.
Very complicated. The whole human services system is very complicated, I find, anyway.
But as you said, I think Hillsborough County has a number of experienced people there that have been there for
Yeah, they've
10
had
or more
a long
years.
time group of people. I know they are, the superintendent of the jail left recently.
Right, but-
They must have replaced him, I don't know.
Yes, but
they
with
did.
his deputy who had been there for 15 years, so it's gone very smoothly. So.
Because that's a big budgeted department, the jail, the nursing home, the human services, and the county attorney's office.
It's an $84 million budget.
Right.
To take care. It's not cheap.
No. Well, like everything,
But
they've done
we-
a good job maintaining the costs and keeping it down as much as possible, which is good. I've been involved with a lot of groups in the city also over the years. I'm a Alliance.
Uh-huh.
I've been involved with other groups. Like I said, I think I was born and raised here, so I know quite a few people. Even though Nashua is a fairly large city, you still tend to meet a lot of people over the years.
Right.
Well, I think that's something that's going to help you in your election, and I'm glad you're able to stop by, talk to our people, our viewers, and
I'm glad of the opportunity.
yeah, I think that good luck. I think you'll do a good job with your experience background.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.